Hello everyone and welcome to today's English language lesson, which focuses specifically on hedging. So what we will be covering today is what is hedging, examples of hedging and why people use it, and how to write about hedging, all of which will hopefully help you to have a better understanding of this part of English language. So what is hedging? Hedging is a part of polite conversation where we make what we are saying less direct. On the screen, I've put a few examples of hedge words and phrases that we typically see in speech and writing, but unlike something like modal verbs, which I look at in a different lesson, there is not an exhaustive list of hedging words, and as with so many things in the English language, it very much relies on the context and for you to figure out if the words being used are making the language less direct. If the answer is yes, it's likely you've come across a hedge word. Let's look at a real-life example of hedging, and this might be one used in school or a workplace environment. We have the sentence here, "This is not quite the standard I would expect of you." Now hopefully from reading this sentence, you can figure out that the hedge word here is quite, and the purpose, like with most examples of hedging, is to make what we are saying softer. As without hedging, the sentence would read, "This is not at the standard I would expect of you." It's a lot more blunt and therefore potentially more likely to cause offence. Let's look at a few more examples. We have the following three sentences, each with the hedging words highlighted in red. So we have, "We all need to work a little bit harder if we're going to make this happen." "I don't think I can come to your party." And "Perhaps you could try doing it the way I asked you to." Hopefully you can see in each example the purpose is actually very similar. All the hedge words make the sentences softer and therefore less likely to offend or get a negative reaction from those receiving the texts, whether they are spoken or written texts. The first one is interesting, as you could talk about the idea of quantity, that working a little bit harder seems more manageable than just saying to someone, "We need to work harder." And also it's perhaps less imposing on the person that you're speaking to as well. The second one is an example that you see so often in day-to-day speech. When someone else has some bad news, they very often use hedging, even though it doesn't change the meaning at all. But you can imagine the reaction to someone saying, "I don't think I can come to your party," versus someone saying, "I can't come to your party," helps to soften up that level of disappointment. From reading the third one, "Perhaps you could try doing it the way I asked you to," there is already the hint of a lot of subtext to this. So let's flesh out that last example of hedging just a little bit and look at this imagined conversation between two speakers, David and Heather, and then consider how we might write about this specific example. So we have Heather saying, "Hi David, I've just looked at the PowerPoint you sent over and I've noticed you've grouped the products alphabetically rather than by popularity." David replies, "Yes, I found that was the quickest way to do it." And then Heather uses the sentence we've seen previously, "Perhaps you could try doing it the way I asked you to." So here is an example of how you might write about this particular use of hedging. I have said the use of the hedge word "perhaps" by Heather makes her response appear softer and less direct. It means that the utterance is formed as an interrogative sentence rather than a direct imperative, therefore helping to keep to typical conventions of politeness. Even though "perhaps" can be seen as an adverb, which implies choice, the context of this interaction and Heather's apparent relative status to David suggests there is little choice, and this is in fact a direct order. If you aren't sure what the other words highlighted in red mean, please look at my video on different sentence types and their functions. Hopefully you can see from this example that I've used the keyword hedging. I've considered the context of the interaction, which is always so important in the study of English language. For example, I've noted that Heather is clearly more senior than David in this workplace. This is never directly said, but it's clear by the fact that he is sending his work to her and she tells him how to do things. And I've also explained with a bit of detail the purpose and the effect of the hedging. As always, understanding the purpose is far more important than just listing the technique that you found. I hope you found this video on hedging useful. If so, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and let me know in the comments if there is anything else that you would want me to cover.